App Planning for Success. Brought to you by Software Accelerator Playbook. On Instagram at S.A.Playbook. Today on the podcast, we're talking all about the idea of trying to figure out exactly what to put into your MVP. How do you figure that out? Well, one North Star, one guiding light is to always think about it from the point of view of your customer. Now, obviously, you can't just only listen to your customer. If that was the case, then people would have just created, faster horses or a way for horses to be faster instead of creating a car. But the idea is that, ultimately you want to understand where they're coming from, understand what problem they're trying to solve, and then understand how many clicks it takes them to actually get that done. Sometimes, if you don't really map out that process and map out, exactly how hard it's going to be for somebody to figure out how to solve their problem or get an answer, then you actually might be complicating your software more than it needs to be. So get really, really clear from the beginning on who are you serving and what problems are they trying to solve. And if you understand this really well, then it makes it easy, or at least a lot easier, to figure out what to put in your app and how to do it, right? If you're just trying to think by yourself of, all the different possible things you could put into the app, and you're not actually pretending to be the customer feeling that pain, then you might end up making the wrong thing. Okay, so here's where imagination really, really helps you. You want to try to imagine that you are them. You want to try to imagine that you have the same pain that they have. You don't want to try to just be you as the app founder, I'm designing a system. You want to actually put yourself in the shoes of the person who's going to be using it, right? Why are they using it? What are they coming to the software for? And are they in a rush? Do they have all day? Are they? What are they inputting? What kind of information are they inputting, or what kind of data are they giving the app in order for the app to do a certain thing? And as you really, really get clear on that, you can then streamline it. You can then make it better. You can then make it take less clicks. You can then make it be more innovative and easy to use. Whatever it is, you've got that customer's pain and customer's problem that you're solving as the forefront thing in your mind. And so if you keep that there, then as you want to then, expand the app or change this or add this feature or change that feature or whatever else it is, then you can always use that as part of it, as basically just a tool to help guide you forward. So if you haven't clarified exactly what problems your app is solving, and hopefully your app doesn't just solve one problem, but there might be multiple different levels, right? So think about Uber, right? What problem does it solve? Well, people need to get from point A to B. Okay, that's one problem it solves. That is not the only problem it solves, right? People also don't have a ton of time. So how handy to be able to have an app that just allows them to basically call a car to them wherever they are, whenever they want. Right? You can even schedule all that stuff within the app. So it's not just I need to get from point A to point B. That is one problem it solves, but that's not all the problems it solves. It also saves a bunch of time. Okay, so think in layers like that too. The idea of, when people are coming into your app to do something, right? If they're creating a project, if they're making a bucket to do something, if they're putting things together, they're getting some sort of output, right? Why are they doing it? Not just that they need to do it, but why are they doing it? And if you can dig down to really understand them better, then it makes it a lot easier because you've got this understanding in your brain of exactly where they're at, and that can guide you forward. Okay, so as soon as you've designed the problems and you're getting clear on the problems, start thinking about the value of the app. Okay, so this is a little bit different. So the problems are all about, what is the customer, tearing their hair out, frustrated with, that your app can solve. But the value, obviously one of those first values is just, you're getting rid of the problem for the customer, which that's a huge one as well. But then there's also value in it for you, right? What's the point of, why are you doing this, right? What's the value of creating this system? You don't just want to solve somebody else's problem, but then have it be zero value to you. You want it to be worth something to you. So how is it worth something to you? Is it going to be that they're going to be paying you for it? Is it that somebody else is going to be paying you for it? Is it that you're going to be hooking up with a company and helping them get more, more customers in the door? Look at money flow when you are answering this question. right? How is money going to be flowing? How is value going to be flowing to the point that people want to spend money? Whether it's a business that's going to be spending money with you, whether it's if it's B2C, so business to consumer, if it's a consumer that's going to be giving you money, whatever it is, look at that value and get a good picture of what kind of value you're creating with this app. And there may be multiple different levels here. So there may be a level of the person is getting direct value just by using the app. They're getting some sort of output, or they're getting, they put in an input and they get out an output. Okay, there's a value, right? But can you potentially, as your own business, use the same software to speed up some internal process or save some time? Can you serve more customers if you've got this app running? In that case, it's not like they're paying you directly to use it, but then you're able to just serve more people in the same span of time, which, with time being money, you're making money by being able to do that. Are you able to then potentially, license this to other companies to use for their internal services? Is that something that you'd want to do? Right? So there's all these different layers, not just B2C, but it could also be B2B, and it could also be business internal. There's a lot of apps that people have created to just help their business run more quickly. Okay, so even this podcast is, I automate the creation of this podcast. Obviously, I have to, open it and press record and start talking. But from there, I want a video to be created. I want a blog post to be created. I want it to go live on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So that whole pipeline is automated so that I don't have to do that manual work every single time. I've automated as much as I possibly can so that, I click a few buttons and the whole system just works. Right? So I'm doing that specifically because I don't want to take 20 minutes every single day, opening up audio software, opening up video software and making it happen. I'd rather it just happen for me. So I created this software as a business internal software to be able to help me process the podcast and save me that time every single day. Where if you really add that up, day after day, week after week, year after year, that's a ton of time saved, right? So it's not just B2B or B2C. It could also be a business internal app or a business internal value, so to speak, where just by you having the capability of being able to use the app, if you can run your business more efficiently, then that's money as well. So as you go through that and you have, you've defined the problem, you've defined the value, now the problem is narrowing the focus. You cannot boil the ocean. If you try to boil the ocean, you're putting in a ton of effort, you're getting as hot as you possibly can, and you're making some water around you, hotter, but you cannot boil the ocean because it's just too big. So as you focus down and go, okay, for version 1, what do I absolutely need to get this thing off the ground? As you go through that process, you're making the plane lighter and lighter and lighter for takeoff. This is a huge advantage because every single feature you want multiplies itself out in terms of, if you want just one feature, you've got to do the planning for it. You've got to do potentially the mock-ups for it. You've got to do the coding for it. You've got to do the QA and testing for it, and then potentially you have to do the marketing for it. So just one feature alone multiplies out 3, 4, 5 times the amount of time and effort it takes to actually get the thing going. So you certainly want to make sure that it's the right thing to build. You definitely want to make sure that anything that you add to that plane is essential. If you don't do this, then you end up making the plane so heavy, you never even get off the ground. You never even get, moving on the runway. You're just still putting boxes and boxes and boxes in the plane and just filling it up to max capacity. And that's a really, really bad way to launch an app because at the very beginning, you don't know what you don't know. And assuming that you have the whole thing figured out is a recipe for disaster. And if you can't get the plane off the ground, if it takes you so long to just fill the plane that you've got no more resources, no more energy, no more anything to get the plane off the ground in terms of marketing, talking about it, working with customers, doing all the support stuff, doing all the dance that's required to actually get the thing going, not just get the plane loaded, but actually get the plane off the ground, then you're really, really going to be kicking yourself later when you realize, man, I wish I would have put in half the number of boxes into this plane and just put energy towards getting this plane down the runway and up into the sky. Then once it's up in the sky, then you can get a good picture of what's going on, right? How are people using it? What feedback am I getting? What kind of support tickets am I getting? What's going on? And I think that ultimately that is something that trips up a ton of people, because they try to do too much and then they go really slow and then they burn out and they just forget about it. And so all of that energy is wasted, versus if they just do a little bit, take a little bite and then get the thing off the ground and then just keep iterating, making it better as you go. Now, obviously you don't want to just, build, you don't want to build the plane in the sky as you're flying. So you have to do enough work, that the plane can fly by itself. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you are narrowing your focus as much as you can to that bullseye or that double bullseye, and really clarifying what's gonna help your customers have that value, solve their problem in a way that will be sustainable. Not in a way that helps, where you cross your fingers and you say, I hope I get investment, I hope I get investment, I hope I get investment, but where you can actually create value that saves time, where people end up wanting to pay you, or businesses want to pay you to be able to use the thing. Okay? If you don't do this, you can spend a ton of money and end up with an app that nobody wants. And that's really frustrating. If you drop $30K on an app and, you turn around the next day, you're like, hey, it's done. Wow, I just spent the last 2 years of my life designing this thing, and then crickets. And nobody wants it. And then when you try to get people involved, they just realize, oh, that's not really a huge problem for me. I don't really need this. Then you go, oh, shoot, I really messed something up. I started building something too soon without actually verifying that I knew that it was the right thing. Or I tried building too much when I should have just built the core tiny little MVP, right? What should I build? What should go into my MVP? Well, you want to narrow that down. Get clear on the problems, get clear on the values, and then narrow your focus down. If you want help with this, please send me a DM on Instagram at S.A.Playbook, and I'd be happy to get you going, get you a 9-step app success plan that I've used for years to get my apps off the ground, and also would be happy to chat with you about the idea of app blueprinting and how that can save you a ton of time and stress and money while you're trying to get your app made. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow.